Hi, this is Laura Vanderkam. I'm a mother of 5, an author, journalist, and speaker.
And this is Sarah Hart-Unger. I'm a mother of 3, a practicing physician, and blogger on the side. We are 2 working parents who love our careers and our families.
Welcome to Best of Both Worlds. Here we talk about how real women manage work, family, and time for fun. From figuring out childcare to mapping out long-term career goals, we want you to get the most out of life. Welcome to Best of Both Worlds. This is Laura. This is episode 230. This is the second part of our year in review, and it is first airing in late December of 2021. In this episode, we are going to be talking more about things that happened in our personal lives, either things that went right or wrong, I guess, or highlights of the year, and just sort of looking back, the retrospective, and what we wish to share from that. So Sarah, when you were thinking about doing this episode, you wanted to match this up with the goals you did set for 2021. And where do you keep that list of goals?
I had a few different goals lists floating around. Part of me actually thought about going back and listening to our prior episode. That would have been an easy way to create a list. But I had saved in my Apple Notes document kind of a master list. I have a folder in there called Lists and Horizons. And I had a 2021 list in there. And I had been looking at it, I wouldn't say super frequently, but periodically enough to know what was in there. So I decided to use that for my kind of framework.
Yes. So I think mine was written on a slip of paper that then in the course of the desk clear out for showing the house disappeared. But I know the general gist of what I intended to do over the course of the year. And some stuff happened and some stuff didn't quite go exactly as planned. But, it's in general, it's probably good that if you want to truly do a goal and it's not something that you're going to remember because it's daily, if it's something that's a bit more periodic or is tied to a specific time, but that time is not January 1st. You might want to keep the list somewhere accessible that you're going to look at frequently, be that, a planner page or a note on your bathroom mirror, or a sticky note on your laptop or something else that's going to remind you. So let's start with Sarah though, because she has a great list where she actually found her 2021 goals and matched them up. So how did it go? How does 2021 look for Sarah?
I am pleasantly surprised about 2021, especially because it was kind of like a weird year with a lot of, transitional type stuff. By the way, I think you should not. I remember that you said you didn't want to be ambitious with goals given Henry's age and stuff. So I think the choice not to keep your list somewhere was purposeful. And that's okay. If you're in that season of life where you're this is a more just take it as it comes year, then maybe it's a year that you don't need to have.
Well, the problem is I had some things that were very ambitious goals that had to happen. I knew those had to happen and I didn't need to be reminded. I don't know about the little ones, but the big stuff, obviously the house renovation and the book project and then writing the book. That had to happen and, plotted forward. But, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, you had enough big rocks. You didn't really need a reminder about smaller things. Plus, still a toddler. Toddler's key. All right, so I'm going to go through a few highlights. I'm not doing every single one of these because you'll get bored. My first one, surprise, surprise, I wrote in my list that I wanted to win the battle against distractions, including my phone. And I wrote that it had become less of an issue in 2020 and I wanted it to be a non-issue in 2021. It was not a non-issue in 2021. However, I do feel especially towards the end of the year, I have made some progress with this, culminating in just basically leaving Instagram because I think I finally figured out that I just have to do that. That is the app that sucks me in by far the worst. It's the social media. I also sometimes, so I think it was November 29th. I decided I took that app off my phone and I started tracking and I was doing really, really well. Last night I had a very stressful day and I ended up on CNN and Doximity, but honestly, that doesn't make me feel as disgusting as Instagram. So I still would call that a victory. And I think I've made progress on this. I think it may always be a work in progress, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy with where things are. I feel like I've taken some steps. My next one had to do with fitness. So Laura and I had decided to try the AMR Many Happy Miles program. I don't know how she did. She can let us know. I tried it for a few months. I think it's a great program for somebody who wants a running community built in and you want calendars. But then it got hot and I got kind of tired of running. So I left it behind and I did more strength stuff. And now I'm kind of running again, but I find myself kind of preferring to set my own training plan. So that didn't work out exactly how I wanted, but I'm glad I gave it a try. And I guess I still was able to generally build in fitness throughout the year. I don't feel like I kind of was as ruthless about it as I was in 2020, but I'm just going to be accepting of myself and be okay with it.
In case you're wondering, no, I stopped doing the AMR thing too. I mean, I think it's great as well. I just had a revelation about my relationship with running and exercise in general, which is that I don't really ever want anyone telling me what to do. And even if it's a nice thing, like I noticed I would get the workout for the day and I would just automatically change it. And so like what's the point? Like I can just do my own thing, and so I think yes, it's great if you are looking for a community. For me, running is mostly a solitary endeavor, except when I run with a friend once a month or so, and we pass the time on our long runs chatting with each other. That makes that a lot more pleasant. But for the general daily run, like I'm just not looking for a structure to it. It's just a way to get some exercise, to get some fresh air. So there you go. That's what happened with that one.
Awesome. So we both quote unquote failed, but not really, because it's not like we didn't stay active and stay exercising, which is really the goal, especially as we get older, like just moving and enjoying it. All right. My next one is that I wanted to try to have more, it's a vague goal, have more fun with the kids, especially as Genevieve got older. I wrote, enjoy the complexity of interaction with ages 3, 6 to 7, and 8 to 9. I agree with the complexity. I don't know about enjoying the interactions. A lot of the interactions are very drama filled and may involve screaming. So I think that was optimistic. I will say it has been really nice not to have to plan around a nap anymore, even though those nap times were lovely. I mean, number one, it started to become a bedtime issue. And number two, it just kind of like made it hard to structure the day, especially if I was trying to preserve it and she might fall asleep in the car and like, who knows? So yeah, I guess this was okay. This wasn't that much of a goal though, but I'll just comment that I think every year it's going to get more and more fun. I am not super into the infant toddler age. Like I can see that now more that I enjoy older kids. You can just do so much more with them. You can talk so much more with them. I'm not one of those people who's like, I want to keep them a baby forever. So I'm really looking forward to this year. Like 4, 8, and 10 is my kids' age for most of the year. And that sounds really fun.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a great goal. Now you had couple goals too. Did you guys actually wind up doing that?
We didn't do a lot. So I think I had wanted to do like a couples trip every quintile. That did not happen, but there were 2 memorable and lovely couples trips that we did take. We did a weekend in Vero Beach and another one in Captiva around our anniversary. I do find that with couples time, like I love the overnights where you actually drive somewhere or fly somewhere to get away a little bit. It just feels, so much easier than if you're kind of staying home. I also at one point, I think in 2020, had decided like, I don't really need date nights, but by the end of 2021, I'm like, I need date nights. So I don't know.
It's good not to have revelations that will take us through the rest of our lives. We can change. Our epiphanies can change.
We can change. And date nights can be lovely because when you spend an entire weekend attending to the needs of your children, being able to leave the house for a few hours and not do that can feel just wonderful.
No, we are more organized about podcast recording. I think we've gotten better there, fully embracing the splitting the interviews, being more spreadsheet driven.
Yes, I do feel like this has gotten better. Not only am so one of my goals was to like get farther ahead, more organized in podcast recording. I had created best laid plans like mid 2020. And so I had like the 2 podcasts and I always felt like I was bumping up against some deadline, but I've been more intentional about like putting on my calendar space to do the prep as well as do the recording. And it's felt a bit less crazy. And yes, I enjoy splitting the interviews because I actually have fun listening to you when you do the interviews and I haven't heard it before. And I do think interviews are just easier to do as a one-on-one than a 2-on-1 anyway. So it's like win-win.
Now let's talk about your travel because you had some travel highlights, unlike 2020. There were some actual travel 2021 highlights.
Yes. So I had written travel somewhere with crisp weather and autumn leaves and see Miriam, my niece. And yes, I can give that a big fat check. We went to North Carolina in November, and there actually were autumn leaves. So I didn't get to do like a specific leaf peeping trip, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out that, hey, when you're farther south, the leaf season lasts longer than one might think. So we were able to see some colorful leaves on that trip as well. And I got to see my niece. So I would say that was a definite yes. Let's see. I had a coach. I had a goal. I had some work-related goals that I'm really happy to say they have happened within the calendar year. We launched a coaching program for the residents that fully happened, and that all happened this year. And I just submitted an abstract with one of our residents to a conference that's next spring. And I haven't done that in quite a long time. So that was 2 kind of big wins work-wise. And that's while doing all the rest of the work stuff. So those were just kind of like side things, but I would call them victories. And then I had some financial goals of like our savings. And I think we did pretty well. My goal was to like make sure we were using 20% of our money towards savings. And I actually think we did do that in 2021, but barely, because at the end we started, instead of moving money to like our taxable account, moving it to like down payment fund. But at the same time, a down payment is kind of like wealth building anyway, to some extent. So it's not money that I'm like spending on a vacation that's evaporating. So I think that counts.
No, I think that counts. I mean, saving up a down payment is a worthy highlight from the year. That's good. Buying a house, also good.
One thing we did not do on the financial side is that I think we started our estate planning process in 2017, and we never finished it. And we still haven't finished it. So that's a 2022 endeavor.
Probably have to update our will because there's another baby than there was when we created it. So lots of stuff changes, keeps going. Well, cool. Well, so that's Sarah's goals for the year, how they matched up with what she did. And we'll take a quick ad break, and then I guess I can share some of my highlights. Well, we are back. We are doing the second part of our year in review episode. This one is a bit more personal focused. So when we just talked about doing this episode, I decided to just do it more in a highlight form. So not thinking about what my goals were for the year, but just like what happened this year that was cool, that I, was happy about and enjoyed. The house project was a giant thing. They started work in March, although the planning was going on in January and February. I was making a lot of selections in January and February. Started ground in March. It went all summer, all fall. We are finishing it up now. We did the walkthrough. It's delivered to us at the end of the year. We are moving in, movers booked January 4 through 7. So it's done. Took the whole year. I mean, it's not done, but it's closer than it was. We still need to get certain wallpaper in, but we want to do that after the heavy furniture comes in. We still have to do a lot of exterior stuff, but that doesn't have to happen before we move in. So, we survived. And I was hoping to get through this with my, sanity and marriage intact. And we're apparently still married. And whether I'm sane or not is a different matter. But, we learn a lot about each other and, the things that people turn out to care about that you might not have guessed that they care about, which is fascinating. I read War and Peace 1 chapter at a time. I mean, I still have like 10 to go as I'm saying, well, yeah, but it's the end. I'm into part 2 of the epilogue, which is the last Tolstoy throat clearing stuff. All the plot points have happened. So, it's done. And I made it through it and I really liked it. It's a wonderful book. Absolutely recommend. I actually did some interesting travel this year, some highlights. We didn't really talk about it all this much in the course of doing this because I don't know, people have different feelings about travel, but we did it as safely as possible. I took the big kids to Disney World in the early summer. We ate at Cinderella's Royal Table, at Sleeping Beauty's Castle. We got a boarding group for Rise of the Resistance. I mean, all cool stuff. The Rise of the Resistance was like this whole saga. We had not gotten them, earlier, whatever. And so the day we were going to try this again, I got up to be on at 7:00 to get on, and I didn't get it. Like I was literally 4 seconds and they were gone for the day. And how is this even possible? And my kids are going to be upset. There's a second chance at 1:00 or whatever that you can do it. So Jasper researched this. He, found he went online and found like all the stuff like while we were waiting in line of like where is the right spot in the park where the Wi-Fi is best. So we went and popped ourselves in that spot. He was on it. He was following the directions. He was on my phone and he got it. So we were riding Rise of the Resistance, which is a lot of fun, actually. It was a really cool ride. I can highly recommend it. I think they're switching it out to a point where now you just wait in line or something, which slightly more democratic, I guess, because if you're willing to wait for 2 hours, you can go on it. But yeah, it was cool. We took a resort vacation with all 7 of us this summer. We went to Turks and Caicos, which was fine. I have to say that international travel with a toddler is just hard. We didn't have a hard time getting the passport. Like I thought a lot of people had said like, oh, getting a passport during COVID is going to be, you're never going to be able to, it was actually fine. I don't know if our particular part of the State Department was working faster, which bless them if they were, but we had no problem getting it. The issue is that my child does not sleep when he is not at home. And it is fine when you are in a house somewhere that you have rented, which is what we often do for vacation purposes. But when you are in a hotel, that is not really going to work. And I think the most I slept consecutively the whole week was about 2.5 to 3 hours. And even though it was a resort that had baby care, so it was like I could go dump him there for, 2 hours at a time and then go pick him up and then bring him back for 2 hours or whatever. It was still hard. It was still hard. So lesson learned, made memories one way or the other.
And you can't relax if you think your 2-year-old is miserable either. Like, even if you dump him there, but you're like thinking that he's screaming the whole time, like how would you even take a good nap when you only slept? That sounds, and then your awareness the whole time that like, wow, every minute costs like $20 or whatever.
I mean, there was good stuff. I mean, so Sam and Jasper went scuba diving, not Jasper, Sam and Michael went scuba diving. Jasper, Ruth, and Alex and I did the snuba thing, which was really cool. Like you have it's basically a scuba tank, but you're like tethered to it and it floats on the surface. So it's the scuba experience, but you don't carry the tank on your back underwater. So there's just a little bit more flexibility that you can come up and down quicker. And plus they're in shallow water. I mean, so you're not dealing with the surfacing issues that come with scuba. There were highlights, like there were fun times. It was just a hard trip. So, and then getting, getting COVID tests for all of us to come back to the US and everything. I'm just everything about it. Our domestic trips had some upsides. We went to Maine in early September, went to Acadia. It was so beautiful. I mean, the lobster was amazing. I can't really eat butter anymore, but I was just like having a little bit with the lobster. It was great. So I really had fun with that. We went leaf peeping in upstate New York. So we did go on that was not the purpose. My brother got married. He had gotten married by Zoom in December of 2020. And then they decided to have the actual full wedding and reception in October at their place in upstate New York. And it was just so gorgeous. I mean, like the peak weekend. We went hiking in Lake Minnewaska State Park. It's just, I mean, stunning, stunning, stunning. We stayed at this gorgeous farmhouse that had like the chickens and the colors of the fall. So amazing. So highly recommend that. We went apple picking. I think I want to do that like every year. I did a solo trip to Cape May to finish my book manuscript, and I would also heartily recommend traveling alone. So throw that out there. Another highlight, writing Tranquility by Tuesday. I mean, I'm still editing it, but the bulk of the manuscript is written. That was not a small project either.
That is a huge highlight.
Time diary project of 150 people over 10 weeks, and then writing a book about it. So like the house, many parts, many people, lots of management, but it's mostly done. Also, Lego projects. We did a ton of Lego projects over the year. Did like, the Lego Friends with Ruth. I did like a NASA rocket with Sam. I mean, it's just, 1,500 piece projects that take weeks, but it's a great way to hang out with like 9 to 13-year-old kids, I would say, and get them to sort of chat with you and have fun and like you're doing something. So we wound up doing the Christmas village type piece, like the Santa's visit. We did that, and I just sprung for the Elf Clubhouse. So we're doing 2 this year because why not? I also did a lot of 1,000-piece puzzles. So more long projects that see through start to fit. I got a little tired of 1,000-piece puzzles by the end of the year. I bought 3 autumn puzzles thinking I was going to do them, and then I just lost it. I did one, and then I couldn't get through the 150 pieces of blue sky, and that was the end of my puzzle obsession. So, well, sometime in the future, I'll get back to it. But yeah, a lot of
puzzles are not going to go bad. That's the good news about puzzles.
Yeah, no, they won't. They won't. And then, one thing that has been a highlight for this year is figuring out just like, I have such a range of children. And I mean, there's very few things that we can all do. I mean, there are certainly some things that we can all do. And I really enjoy like family dinners now that Henry's sitting in a chair. I'm just looking around at all of them and he's really trying to be part of it because he's old enough to do that. And to see the interaction of the older children with him is just amazing and heartwarming and wonderful. But on the other hand, there are certain things that we can't do with him that the older children might want to do. But we've, figured out stuff like, it turns out you can hire childcare for a few hours on the weekend for just one child, right? And this is the sort of thing that I don't think people, like my vision of childcare when I was pre-kids, I did not recognize that. And especially when I see things like people are like, oh, hiring childcare is you're outsourcing yourself. Like, I want to see my children. I'm like, well, I want to see my children too. And in order to do stuff with my older children, sometimes we need to not have the baby. And so hiring a sitter for him for a few hours on the weekend so we can go tubing on the Delaware River, so we can go ice skating. All of that is stuff that is a lot harder with a toddler or impossible with a toddler. Like they weren't going to let us put a toddler on a tube in the river. So, that's a realization. And I think we have one more year of it. And then I think he'll be sort of getting into the stage where he can start to do stuff. Maybe a year or 2 years.
I say 2.
2 years. Okay. When he's 4, he can do it.
Because I feel like we've just gotten there and Genevieve turned 4 this past weekend. And I'm like, okay, like, you're not going to fall asleep at 6 p.m. if you didn't nap. You are less likely to throw a temper tantrum. Like, you're right. 3 is easier than 2. But I think in 2 years, you're going to be like, woohoo. And then Jasper's going to be like driving everyone around.
I mean, that's the issue. Like, it's like not in 2 years, but like 3.5. He's going to be an adult. So
I know. In 2 years, he can be part of the carpool.
That is also true. I am so excited about that, by the way. A highlight of, so starting high school has been cool to see him, come into his own with that and all the stuff that's in high school and, seeing him find his tribe, and he's doing like a science competition and he's joined the select chorus. He's one of the very few freshmen who auditioned and got in. So that's been really fun to see that happen. Been very proud of that. But yeah, every time we drive into the high school parking lot, I'm like, okay, when are you going to get your license? Like that I can let you take my old dozen-year-old car and, because I don't care if it's like banged up, and just go drive yourself. So
that'll be amazing.
It will be amazing.
You're close.
We're close. We can leave kids home alone. We can leave the older 2 home with some of the younger ones. Like, so certainly Jasper and Sam are both capable of staying with Alex for not hours, but, some amount of time. I've left Henry sleeping with Jasper home in charge. I'm a little wary of, he would watch him, but he'd like feel resentful about it if I left him for like hours with Henry. So I tend to hire a sitter for Henry if that's going to be a situation. But yeah, so that's the deal right now. And then the last thing that's been sort of a revelation over the course of the year, I must not have had this health problem as acutely in the past because I feel like life would have been unlivable if I had, but whatever, after the 5th pregnancy or something, I had a chronic sore throats and congestion, which is one of these mysterious medical maladies that who even knows what that could be, because it's symptomatic of everything, right? It could be allergies, it could be dietary issues, it could be a throat condition of some sort. There's just so many things it could be that you don't even know. Like, what specialist would you go to get it treated? Like, because GI and allergy are totally like separate kind of things. And so anyway, long story short, lots of Dr. Google, lots of crowdsourcing, lots of trying stuff out by taking a regimen of anti-reflux medications and avoiding dietary triggers such as dairy and wine, I am able to keep it under control. And so like not having chronic pain is like a great way to end the year. I gotta say, like I will pause and be like, I can breathe. My throat doesn't hurt. Like I'm not, counting the minutes till I can go to sleep and hopefully I'll wake up, with it not hurting, so that has been a huge, huge relief. And it's just like life, when you get older, stuff just happens.
It's so true. And I feel like the key with that was the trial and error, right? Like you had to experiment with different things because no doctor, I mean, of course, I have high respect for doctors, but there are certain things that are just hard to test for. You're going to have to just do different things and see what works and then figure it out. So that's amazing.
Yeah,
Not having pain is good. I was
trying anti-allergy medicines for a while and that didn't do anything. And so I was like, well, darn, like what? I had high hopes that like it was, because congestion and sore throat is a pretty obvious, like, pollen and whatever else and breathing allergy. But no, it wasn't that.
Well, it could be an allergy, but it could be a food allergy.
I think it's more likely to be a food allergy. And that it turns out that not everybody who has reflux has like heartburn, that there are other forms you can get that in. And so that was a revelation as well. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe like this will stop working at some point. And it turns out that there was just some other, magical coincidence that made it feel better. But it does, in fact, feel better. And so, medical mystery maladies is.
And this is not medical advice.
No, this is not a medical advice at all. But, it may be something that you just have to experiment with over time and figure out what will work and what won't. So anyway, that is that. Well, this has been our second part of Year in Review. We hope everyone who is listening to this in late December is having a restful holiday vacation, or if it is not a restful holiday vacation because you are home with your 1 and 3-year-old while their daycare is closed, we want to send a shout out to you, soldiering through it, because, when you have little kids, vacations are often not restful, and we understand. And so, cheers to getting through the day and celebrating when it's bedtime and just kicking your feet up and having a moment. So we're there with you.
Or putting this podcast on to distract you while your kids are making a complete and utter destruction site out of the playroom.
Exactly. Let it go. It'll be good. All right. Well, this has been Best of Both Worlds. We will be back next week, which is actually going to be next year, with more on making work and life fit together.
Thanks for listening. You can find me, Sarah, at theshoebox.com or at @the_shoebox on Instagram.
And you can find me, Laura, at lauravanderkam.com. This has been the Best of Both Worlds podcast. Please join us next time for more on making work and life work together.